Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Joel Madden, and this is Artist Friendly. On this episode, I'm talking to the lead singer of The Offspring, Dexter Holland. Let's go.
I'm smoking on piff, that's my kind. I don't want no bad times. I don't want to have bad.
Where were you? You come from an interview?
Yeah.
Or what interview was it?
We were at the label at Concord.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, doing some international stuff over there, just like Zoom.
Yeah, okay,
mostly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bunch of press stuff. Getting ready for the record.
You know how it is.
Yeah. Get it all done.
Yeah, this is kind of the first kind of official press day that we've done. So we're still a couple months out.
For like record setup, like how much with your life can you dedicate to setting up a record?
Yeah.
It's challenging for you.
It is, right? It's been bunched up usually in the past, right?
Yeah.
It kind of depends, but you know, there's so much, as you know, there's just noise in the world. It's so much harder to make an announcement on anything. So you kind of have to devote more time to it, I think.
Yeah. It's the thing that I think when I think about putting a record out, we're probably going to put a record out next year, which has been like 7 years.
Okay.
And the thing that stops me a lot of times is thinking about the setup of the record, all the promo and stuff.
Pretty extensive for you guys then?
Yeah, and I think I overthink it. You know, because you know how it is. Some interviews are great, and then some you just feel like, oh, they don't even want to be here. Like this is just funnel me through.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, it can be different because some people they travel extensively to do stuff. You know, we got to go to Europe for 2 weeks, and we've done that in the past. And then the last time we did a record, it was actually during COVID, so there was no traveling at all.
Changed the whole thing.
And believe it or not, we did the most we've ever done because it was all Zoom, because it had to all be Zoom. Before, they'd be like, he will only speak to you in Paris in person, you know, that sort of thing. And so we did like, I think we counted them up. We did like 150. Like we did the most promo we've ever done for a record. So it actually kind of worked out in that way.
Yeah, I feel like COVID broke down some of the old, like rigid rules around like how we do any kind of press or promotion or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, like you call it promotion, but you actually care about the record you made. And when you can go and actually give it to someone, talk about it, and it feels like they care, you never mind doing that.
For sure.
Like I would travel anywhere if I knew it meant something.
For sure, yeah.
And the measurement you do a lot of times is just like, how much pain am I willing to go through to promote this to a writer, a magazine, whatever, and feel like it was just nothing. Feel like a little disappointed in, like, you get used to it as you know through your career, but there's nothing better than I think when you get to talk about your record and it feels like felt. I think
receptive, right?
Yeah.
Well, so you're saying then it's been 7 years since you've done like promo for a record, then, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we were just talking today. Like, I don't know if you've noticed this because it's been a little while, but like I feel like the more that time goes on, the easier it gets because they're more familiar. Like you're kind of more accepted than you were when you were a kid. And they're like, who's this guy who thinks he's got one song on the radio?
Yeah, even though you don't age.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Dude.
Thank you. Yeah.
I don't know if it's the, I saw you got a PhD in biology.
Yep.
Is there anything you learned in biology with aging that you're like, I'm using that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I developed this thing in the lab. It's a secret concoction. That's
fucking great, man. You look great.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think the older you get as a band, certainly you guys have this legacy, and there's not a lot of bands that can hold a legacy over decades, but are still a vital band. So they can, you guys tour, play these big shows, put out records. There's energy in the band. I think there's just not that many bands that have legacies over decades, especially in the last decade. If you think about where music's been, there's been less bands, not only that have made it to the zeitgeist of like popular culture, but I think less bands started in the 2010 to 2020 decade than ever.
Yeah.
To be able to have the catalog you guys have of like great songs, hit songs, great records, consistently over the decades, and then still be in the world, giving them to people, playing shows. It's just not that many bands. Maybe is there dozens? Maybe like it's just such a small number of bands that I think the conversations that were had about us when we were younger, I think probably more us than you guys, was like, are they this, are they that, are they this, are they that? Just like music fans arguing, which isn't bad. Those go away over time if you, I guess, stick around and keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you. That's very flattering. And I mean, that is a good question. Like, is there just less good bands, or is it just harder to break through nowadays? I'm not really sure the answer to that. But, I think one of the first bands I noticed, at least in our world, that this was happening with, and it's a long time ago now, was Social Distortion, really, right? They finally got to a point where they were just kind of invincible. They could go play 10 nights at wherever it was, and they had just they had outlasted the critics. Is really what it was, right? And I thought that was really encouraging at the time. They're like, wow, this is great that they're made men in a way, right?
Yeah. It's funny too to even say like Social Distortion in your mind. You go, yeah, they were always accepted.
Yeah. And you forget that it wasn't like that back then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we were talking today about some of the press that we've been doing and how it was pretty brutal at the beginning. Some of the guys, right? Like they're older than you are. They're not really into your kind of music anyway. They don't get it. And they're just kind of like giving you a hard time. It was really challenging back in the day, but I'm finding more and more that people have kind of grown up with us in a way, right?
Yeah.
So it makes for a much nicer conversation now than it used to.
And the proof is always in the catalog over time. It's just, you guys have so many songs. You guys, I mean, how long is your set?
As long as it has to be.
Yeah. You guys have a lot of great songs.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, I don't know about you. I mean, I'm a big fan of bands that are like, we're going to go on, we're going to show the fans, we're going to play for 3 hours. But man, it's hard doing that, especially when you're playing stuff like we all play, right?
Yeah, it's energetic.
Yeah.
Costs a lot of energy.
Yeah. But I mean, we're anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, maybe. It's kind of where we're at right now.
I think that's a sweet spot.
I think so, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hour 15.
It's hard to carry things longer than an hour and a half. And maybe, we're thinking about trying to go to an hour 40 or whatever, but you get to a certain point where there's going to be a lull in the set. The longer you go, there's only so much you can do to keep it. And I love keeping it at high energy the whole time if you can. Yeah.
And I've gone to shows where it hits like the 145, 2 hour mark. There's a little bit of like a anticlimactic feeling of, I almost like it when there's one or two songs I wish they'd played. As long as you play as long as you play all of them. But shaving songs off is hard sometimes because you're like, oh, we have to play that one. Mm-hmm. Which one goes? But it is good to leave, especially if you're coming back, to leave people with a little something to want.
For sure. There's an art to it too, right? I mean, like, I think it's okay to start off with a bang and have the energy come down a little bit in the middle and then bring it back up at the end, right? That's kind of cool. It's like kind of like we laughed, we cried, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But but you still want to keep it, like you said, entertaining and going the whole time.
What do you think keeps you wanting to do it? Mm-hmm. And what is it that keeps you guys healthy as a band? Like emotionally, maybe it's your relationship. And then as people, like, what do you think that sustaining philosophy is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's fun, right? I mean, we were teenagers going to shows, and there was just something about being at those shows that was like the most exciting thing I'd ever been a part of, right?
Yeah.
And it could have been little club shows with a 12-inch stage where you're watching some small band, or it could have been the Dead Kennedys at the Olympic or whatever. And it's just like, there was just a real excitement to it that I just ate up. I loved it. So the most fun thing I could do would be to play a show on Saturday night at a little club, right? That was better than, I don't know, anything.
Yeah.
Going skiing, going whatever. Like that's what I wanted to do. So I think that's probably a real factor in it, right? It's just that's just a fun feeling, as like it's the best feeling. And then especially once it gets to the point where they're actually singing stuff that I wrote, right?
Yeah.
That's like a whole different level of, holy shit, this is the best thing ever. So that's really cool. I mean, the fact that we're friends, it's a big part of it. And I think the fact that nothing happened for us for 10 years, like, it wasn't like all of a sudden we had shit to deal with. Like, we were fucking nothing for 10 years. We had to just learn how to deal with each other and learn how to become a band and play together and do all the stuff that bands need to know how to do in order to interpersonally navigate before anything happened. And so in a way, that was probably a blessing.
Yeah, waiting, feeling it. Like, I think anybody that's successful, you have to kind of feel it in your gut that it's there, that you could achieve it. Even if everyone's like, hey, good luck, kid. Nice music. Cool. You know, that used to, we were a band in 96 and we probably didn't really get opportunity till 2000. Okay. So it wasn't as long. It was 4 years, right? Yeah. But the 4 years was all we thought about was wanting to make it. you know, but you feel it, but then you share it with people, you try to promote yourself, and you get that like blank stare, and you can just, you can tell when someone isn't buying it.
Yeah.
For 10 years, you guys had to have felt something was there. We were going to,
Yeah, I was bullish more than the rest of the world, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, we also started from, we didn't even play instruments. So
neither did we.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the learning curve was really long for us, getting to figure out how to play and how to be a band and how to promote yourself. No one was interested in us. So it's like, well, I'll buy cassettes and I'll dupe cassettes and we'll hand them out at shows, and just like, things that were maybe in some ways effective and in some ways didn't help at all. Right. And that just really took a while to just develop all that stuff and really getting to know people, I think, because as you know, it's so much about the people that that can help guide you in the right direction and stuff.
Yeah. What year was that when you guys started?
85, 84, 85.
And from there to like Smash, how many years was that?
So it was about 10 years.
10 years. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah. People say, like, I've heard interviews of famous bands, like when we first started, there was only 6 people in the audience. And I'm like, there was only 6 people in our audience for about 8 of those 10 years. Like, it was like really where we lived for a long time.
And where was that in like Southern California?
Yeah.
Oh.
We grew up in Garden Grove.
Oh, wow.
Orange County.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that ended up being like this little like hub for this like Southern California music, like all the little cities in Southern California. I mean, you would have probably come and crossed paths with so many bands that went on to have different levels of success.
Yeah. I mean, after a while, we grew up, I really liked the Orange County bands. I loved TSOL and the Vandals and DI and Social Distortion, of course, and all that. And I think in some weird way that did influence me, in that I was interested in punk rock, but a melodic kind of punk rock that really wasn't very common at the time. There was a lot of Black Flag and Circle Jerks, and those are great bands and classic bands. But I mean, where I was coming from is I wanted to add the songwriting element to punk stuff. And you're trying to figure out how to do it. And you try to take your cassette to the club and they're like, we don't want you, or how many people can you draw? And we can't draw anybody. And so you try to figure it out. We went through the whole thing where some sleazy promoter made us buy 100 tickets that we had to resell. We lost a lot of money on that. And then eventually we tapped into this thing, which was the backyard party. Finally people knew us enough to like, hey, why don't you come play our party? And all of a sudden you're playing for 300 kids in a backyard, and it's pretty fucking great, right?
Yeah. Those were the days.
If it didn't get broken up by the cops.
Yeah.
So, but that's kind of what I mean. The way you kind of just have to live and learn and figure out how to find your audience somewhere.
I would say there are 2 records of yours that had a profound effect on my own, not only my songwriting, but my perception of like this music could matter in the halls of music history. When you think of great records, Smash, to me, one of the greatest records of all time.
Awesome. Thank you.
And it's funny because like when you're young and you make those records, like you're not thinking that at the time. You're making a record you love. You want to go play it.
For sure.
And it's interesting too, because like when you think of classic records, that would be on all my lists next to, what I was raised to think is important music wasn't the kind of music we were playing. Like it wasn't cherished at the time as anything important. It was like young or whatever, like pop punk or whatever you call it. I don't even know if we ever really felt like it was that. We loved punk music, but I was like, I wanted to make like good songs, like songwriting, that people would sing. But that one, and then Ixnay was for me, such a great, like that record. I love that record. I listened to that record. I wore it out. And obviously you guys have had a bunch of records I like. Just at the time in my life when I needed the record to show me something, those records appeared. And so in pivotal moments of my own, gathering my own idea of what a record sounds like, what are the parts of the record, how does the record flow, even the album artwork, all of it. So it's interesting. Like me and my brother were talking about it. I was excited you were coming in, but we were talking about at these pivotal moments, these spots in our life where records have come and influenced you, and could be your songwriting. It could be the idea of the success you could have. There's a whole bunch of ways a record could influence you. Those 2 records stand out to me as like really important moments that I went on from, and I think they infused into our records somehow. And it's cool to be able to tell you that to sit here and I go, oh,
I know,
those
that's
were really
It
important.
really means a lot. Thank you very much.
That's cool.
Really cool. And especially, I don't hear that a lot about Ixnay. So that's interesting. That you
Dude,
connected
such a
with
good
that one.
record.